that can ever happen. Unless—" For a moment he stopped, looking straight into her eyes. "Nothing, nothing in the world, Mélisse," he repeated, almost in a whisper. "Unless you did not tell me the truth back on the trail at Wekusko when you said that it was not a sin to love you." "And if I tell you, if I confess that it is a sin, that I lied back there, then will you go?" she demanded quickly. Her eyes flamed on him with a strange light. "No," he said calmly. "I would not believe you." "But it is the truth. I lied terribly to you. I have sinned even more terribly, and you must go. Don't you understand me now? If some one should come and find you here—" "There would be a fight," he said grimly. "I have come prepared to fight." He waited a moment, and in the silence the brown head in front of him dropped slowly, and he saw a tremor pass through the slender form, as if it had been torn by an instant's pain. The pallor had gone from Howland's face. The mute surrender in the bowed head, the soft sobbing notes that he heard now in the girl's breath, the confession that he read in her voiceless grief, set his heart leaping, and again he drew her close into his arms and turned her face up to his own. There was no resistance now, no words, no pleading for him to go, but in her eyes he saw the prayerful entreaty with which she had come to him on the Wekusko trail, and in the quivering red mouth the same torture and love and half surrender that had burned themselves into his soul there. Love, triumph, undying faith shone in his eyes, and he crushed her face closer until the lovely mouth lay pouted like a crimson rose for him to kiss. You told me something that wasn't true once back there," he whispered. "And you promised that you wouldn't do it again. You haven't sinned in the way that I mean, and in the way that you want me to believe." His arms tightened still more about her, and his voice was suddenly filled with a tense, quick eagerness. "Why don't you tell me everything?" he asked. "You believe that if I knew certain things I would never want to see you again, that I would go back into the South. You have told me that. Then, if you want me to go, why don't you reveal these things to me? If you can't do that, go with me tonight. We will go anywhere, to the ends of the earth." He stopped at the look that had come into her face. Her eyes were turned to the window. He saw them filled with a strange terror, and involuntarily his own followed them to where the storm was beating softly against the window pane. Close to the lighted glass was pressed a man's face. He caught a flashing glimpse of a pair of eyes staring in at them, of a thick, wild beard whitened by the snow. He knew the face. When life seemed slipping out of his throat, he had looked up into it that night of the ambush on the Great North Trail. There was the same hatred, the same demonic fierceness in it now. With a quick movement Howland sprang away from the girl and leveled his revolver to where the face had been. Over the shining barrel he saw only the taunting emptiness of the storm. Scarcely had the face disappeared when there came the loud shout of a man, the hoarse calling of a name, and then of another, and after that the quick, furious opening of the outer door. Howland whirled, his weapon pointing to the only entrance. The girl was ahead of him, and with a warning cry he swung the muzzle of his gun upward. In a moment she had pushed the bolt that locked the room from the inside, and had leaped back to him, her face white, her breath breaking in fear. She spoke no word, but with a moan of terror caught him by the arm and pulled him past the light and beyond the thick curtain that had hidden her when he had entered the room a few minutes before. They were in a second room, palely lighted by a mass of coals gleaming through the open door of a box stove, and with a second window looking out into the thick night. Fiercely she dragged him to this window, her fingers biting deep into the flesh of his arm. "You must go through this," she cried chokingly. "Quick! Oh, my God, won't you hurry? Won't you go?" Howland had stopped. From the blackness of the corridor there came the beat of heavy fists on the door and the rage of a thundering voice demanding admittance. From out in the night it was answered by the sharp barking of a dog and the shout of a second voice. "Why should I go?" he asked. "I told you a few moments ago that I had come prepared to fight, Mélisse. I shall stay and fight." "Please, please go," she sobbed, striving to pull him nearer to the window. "You can get away in the storm. The snow will cover your trail. If you stay they will kill you, kill you." "I prefer to fight and be killed rather than to run away without you," he interrupted. "If you will go " She crushed herself against his breast. "I can't go now this way," she urged. "But I will come to you. I promise that. I will come to you." For an instant her hands clasped his face. "Will you go if I promise you that?" "You swear that you will follow me, that you will come down to the Wekusko? My God, are you telling me the truth, Mélisse?" "Yes, yes, I will come to you if you go now." She broke from him, and he heard her fumbling at the window. I will come, but not to Wekusko. They will follow you there. Go back to Prince Albert, to the hotel where I looked at you through the window. I will come there sometime as soon as I can." A blast of cold air swept into his face. He had thrust his revolver into its holster, and now again for an instant he held Mélisse close in his arms. "You will be my wife?" he whispered. He felt her throbbing against him. Suddenly her arms tightened around his neck. "Yes, if you want me then. If you want me after you know what I am. Now go, please. Please go." He pulled himself through the window, hanging for a last moment to the ledge. "If you fail to come within a month I shall return," he said. Her hands were at his face again. Once more, as on the trail at Le Pas, he felt the sweet pressure of her lips. "I will come," she whispered. Her hands thrust him back, and he was forced to drop to the snow below. Scarcely had his feet touched when there sounded the fierce yelp of a dog close to him, and as he darted away into the smother of the storm the brute followed at his heels, barking excitedly in the manner of the mongrel curs that had found their way up from the south. Between the dog's alarm and the loud outcry of men there was barely time in which to draw a breath. From the stair platform came the rapid fusillade of rifle shots that sang through the air above Howland's head, and mingled with the fire was a hoarse voice urging on the cur that followed within a leap of his heels. The presence of the dog filled the engineer with a fear that he had not anticipated. Not for an instant did the brute give slack to his tongue as they raced through the night, and Howland knew now that the storm and the darkness were of little avail in his race for life. There was but one chance, and he determined to take it. Gradually he slackened his pace, drawing and cocking his revolver. Then he turned suddenly to confront the yelping nemesis behind him. 3 times he fired in quick succession at a moving blot in the snow gloom, and there went up from that blot a wailing cry that he knew was caused by the deep bite of lead. Again he plunged on, a muffled shout of defiance on his lips. Never had the fire of battle raged in his veins as now. Back in the window, listening in terror, praying for him, was Mélisse. The knowledge that she was there, that at last he had won her and was fighting for her,